Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast, the podcast and talk show where we have digital discussions from the worlds of TV, film, pop culture, social media, sports, and news, everything really, depending on the guest, we talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis. On social media, you know me as PD Beats. My guest will star in a movie coming out called Smiley Face Killers. We're with Ronen Rubinstein and Mia Serafino. Both of you, welcome to Popternative.
Thank you.
I mean, welcome to the show.
No, I was just going to compliment you on that opening. I mean, it's like, fast, that was impressive.
Bye. Well, no problem. Well, thank you guys for coming on the show. I mean, you look at this movie, I mean, there's a lot kind of going on in this film. We'll start with Mia. I mean, what was kind of going through your mind when you kind of read the script for this film?
First I saw Bret Easton Ellis's name and I was like so excited. Big American Psycho fan, big fan of his books. Yep. And then I loved it. It wasn't a typical horror film. It was, for lack of a better word, kind of cooler, vibier. Mm-hmm. I thought the relationship wasn't just like the girlfriend. It felt very, there was some depth to it. They get right into these relationships. The first scene with Ronen. It was a really, really interesting script and not superficial horror film. So I appreciated that.
And Ronen, especially for your case, I mean, Jake is a very complex character. There's a lot kind of going on with this character. Was that kind of what you kind of grasped from the script as well? That this was kind of a character that's kind of going through a lot throughout the film?
Yeah, this was sort of a dream come true from an acting perspective. There's so many layers and so many things to explore. And you know, whether it's his depression, his relationships with his friends, his own inner voice, his balance of, you know, trying to be quote unquote normal, and then, you know, the second and third act is literally being stalked by these psychos, and then comes in the physical aspect of the film, which is something that I've always wanted to do, and it's a thing that I hope to do for the rest of my career. I like challenging myself physically and mentally, and this was definitely the most challenging so far. But it's sort of like Mia said, I'm deeply in love with Bret's work, with whether it's Less Than Zero or American Psycho or Rules of Attraction. It's some of my favorite books, and he has such a unique voice in entertainment. So when I found out that he was actually writing it and not just producing it, I was hooked. And then the script itself reads so fast and so authentic, and it feels personal, and there's so much depth to all the characters. So I was completely in from the beginning.
Mia, you mentioned a little bit as well that, you know, this is a horror film. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot of intrigue when we read the script. I mean, it's safe to say the last kind of 5 years, horror movies are kind of taking over the world. It's unbelievable where that genre has become. Was it kind of exciting for you as well to kind of work on a horror movie, like when you kind of found out about this opportunity?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I love horror films, but I get too scared to watch them. So acting in them is kind of a great thing, because then it's not, you're not scared doing it, but you still get to be a part of it. But yeah. And I love the kind of vibey, like, tone of these newer horror films. Has been something so cool, almost like a throwback to, I mean, I love like Rosemary's Baby and those kind of moody, quiet horror films. And I thought this was so cool because it's not blood and guts the whole time, which I find scarier when you don't know what's happening. You don't know who's behind the door. It's using music for anticipation. I love the score to this movie too. That when I first watched this, I was so struck by the music. I thought it did such an amazing job to give the feeling of it and to control people's anticipation and what's going to happen. So yeah, I mean, this one in particular felt not only was a horror film, but it did it in a really cinematic way that sometimes is hard to achieve with scary, scary stuff.
Well, I think that's a good point. And Ronen, you can maybe like add to this. I mean, it's true because, you know, there's a lot of things going on in horror films, but you don't need like the cheap jump scares and the big gore to scare people. I mean, the world is scary. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot kind of going on right now. Do you when did you kind of notice that kind of shift in the horror thriller landscape as well, where like there's the psychological and mental game with scaring people as well?
I think at the top of my head, the film that sticks out to me the most is It Follows.
Mm-hmm.
I think that really changed the game for modern horror films.
Yep.
And then, you know, it just sort of trickled down from there. And then we have movies like Hereditary, which is one of the most stylized, you know, close-up films you'll see. Like, most of that film is in close-up, so you're watching people's emotions literally like this. I love that. You know, they're shooting horror films as if it was like, you know, an Oscar-winning drama. So I think there's a beautiful shift in that genre. And, you know, I'm just glad that Smiley Face Killers is even being, like, you know, brought into the conversation, because it is a film that is very quiet. You know, we're sort of watching people in their lives, but also in their heads. You know, there's not a lot happening, which I really like, and the music really is a throwback, and it's sort of like what the Safdie brothers, I think, are bringing back around, is sort of that like techno thriller music that was huge in the 80s, and now they've sort of made it their own. I think there's a lot of that vibe happening in this film. So yeah, it's cool, man.
No, absolutely. Both of you have worked on an incredible amount of amazing TV shows and movies in the past. Anytime, you know, whether you've been working, you know, for 1 year or 10 years, no matter how many projects you work on, there's always going to be learning experiences for yourself as a storyteller and an actor. Mia, what were some learning experiences for you specifically working on Smiley Face Killers?
This was just kind of an actor's dream to be on a film. I mean, you know, doing TV, it's great in its own right. There's a lot of benefits, but you're moving so fast. You'll get one and done. I mean, Ronen and I got to do these scenes, and we got to like rehearse them and speak about them and talk about them and talk with our director and feel it out and try it one way, try it another way. I mean, they were also trying, I mean, Ronen, remember when they didn't use it in the film, but doing a 360 of our argument. I mean, they were really being experimental, and it allowed us to feel like we were being experimental and trying things a million different ways. And it really just was like, oh, this is why I'm doing this. I mean, we've done so many jobs where you're sitting in your trailer waiting for 6 hours to go be on set for 30 seconds. And so they cut up a scene, but we really like long takes. We got to play out the scenes. You know, we were all living in the same house. We got to rehearse in the house. It just felt like real acting. The payoff for all the work felt worth it in this project, definitely.
Absolutely. And Ronen, to kind of add to that too, you know, people will recognize you from, you know, Lone Star, 911 Lone Star and Orange is the New Black. You worked on a lot of other big projects as well. What was kind of your experience like working on a film like this compared to other projects like that in the past?
I think it's very much what Mia just said. You get to explore, you know, and that comes rare in television. You know, we're also, I mean, we shot this, we had a pretty good schedule. I think it was almost like 2 months. So we had a lot of time to explore these scenes, which have so much layers and so much depth to them that I don't think it would do justice if you rush through them.
Yep.
So, and, you know, it's sort of like really enjoy these movies when you get a chance to make them. Because, you know, they don't really come often, especially right now. There's like indies are in a weird place in time. So I'm just grateful that we got to sort of enjoy that process and just really get to dive into the work, which you don't get to do a lot on television, unfortunately.
Is it safe to say that if an opportunity arises to do another horror film, both of you would be in? Was it kind of that was that kind of the takeaway after doing a film like this? You're like, I want to kind of explore the genre a little bit more. Like, was that kind of, did that happen to you a little bit as well?
Well, if it was anything like this, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, especially what Ronen was saying about this new genre of horror that's so quiet and interesting and kind of an actor's dream, because it's starting to be more about the acting, you know, which I think sometimes in the past, you know, it's shock factor and all this stuff, but now they're writing these scenes. I mean, Get Out, and if you consider that a horror, that was one of my favorites. Just,
oh my god,
it's about so much
good.
more than just scaring people. Yeah, they become satire, become smart, and yeah, I think it's kind of one of the best genres right now where you can really explore as an actor, and they're writing really meaty, deep stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Ronen, Mia, thank you so much for coming on Popternative, and congrats with Smiley Face Killers. This is a great film, and people are going to have the opportunity to check it out pretty soon.
Yeah.
December 4th.
Excited.
That's amazing. Mia, where can people follow you on social media to keep up to date with everything going on?
Just Mia Serafino, my name, first and last name, Twitter, Instagram.
Mm-hmm. And Ronen, what about you?
Same thing, at Ronen Rubinstein, Instagram and Twitter.
Well, seriously, Ronen and Mia, thank you so much. And yeah, we're excited to see, everyone's excited to see the film in December. So that's going to be great.
Thanks,
thank
man.
you both for your time.
Peter.
No problem. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative. For previous episodes, you can catch Ronen Rubinstein and Mia Serafino in Smiley Face Killers coming out December 4th. And until next time, this is Mia, Petey Beats, and Ronen signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.